Guys, welcome back. This is Christopher Aaron. This is February 11th, 2021, iGold Advisor, and we are going to look at the possibility of gold achieving $3,000 not this year, but next year, 2022. We're going to look at the possibility of that in this broadcast. Before we get to that, I want to remind you, there is a war out there. There is a war for your consciousness, as you already know. There are many battles going on politically. There's also a war for your finances, and this is a big thing. Central banks have a target on your bank, and they are trying to take your savings away from you. When they say that there's going to be 2% inflation or 3% inflation every year, what they're saying is we're going to steal from you 2 or 3% of your life savings every single year. And then you compound that out, you do the math, figure out what they're actually taking from you. So they're trying to steal from you. That's the number one thing. Second thing is that governments, then when they get that money that they steal from you, they like to try to use that money in ways that are not actually beneficial for you or for anyone, such as blowing people up on the other side of the planet. And if you have a problem with me saying that, I did serve in the U.S. Department of Defense in Iraq and Afghanistan between 2006 and 2009. Not only did I see it, but I did it. And this is the policy, and there's a reason why this policy exists. It is not random. It is designed to try to destroy the wealth that you have accumulated through taxes and inflation, and then to do the most destructive thing that could be done with that wealth. For example, if they just taxed you and inflated you into oblivion, but then let's say took that money and at least gave it to the poor, at least there would be some benefit from that, right? At least some poor person would benefit if they did that. But instead, what they do is they tax and they inflate you away, and then they take that money and they blow other people up on the other side of the planet. And so it's a double destruction. Not only does it destroy your wealth through taxes and inflation, but it destroys other people at the same time. It's the only thing that does that. And the second worst thing to unnecessary war, of course, is bailouts of banking institutions, which should be allowed to fail, but they're not allowed to fail. And there's a reason for that, and that reason is that the banks themselves own the central banks. So of course they're not going to let themselves fail. The only problem is that most people don't recognize these paradigms. As soon as you recognize these paradigms, the world starts to make sense. All of this is true. We know this to be true. You can see this with your own eyes. That said, this is not going to help make you a wealthy person. To do that, you have to be one step smarter. Because if it was so easy to just buy gold or silver and just wait until you're wealthy, everyone would be doing it. So the problem is we have to recognize the cycles even within the system of corruption as it exists. And that is what we are here to do. We're here to look at the actual technical action, which is defined in the cycles, and then to use this information to profit. It's one thing to want to fight the system, which I do, but it's another thing to give the system a middle finger when you're on a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean and you're just able to say, you know what, I won. So that's it. That's what we want to try to do here in this service, is to stop the corruption from happening, number one, and second, to be winners in this system. And we have a way to do that here. Thank you for joining make sure you hit the big red subscribe button so you get notified when these videos come out in the future. As I said, we will be looking at the possibility for gold to hit a $3,000 target in 2022 coming up in this video. And by the way, I am not ignorant of the fact that silver is within what may be the very early stages of an epic short squeeze. Epic. I'm seeing historical divergence between the PSLV fund and the SLV fund. If you're in the silver market, you know what I'm talking about. I don't even need to define those ticker symbols for you. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, then wait till the next video, because I'll be talking about that next time. But epic divergence between PSLV and SLV, all-time high volume in the history of mankind coming into PSLV. Guys, seriously, wake up. People are buying silver right now. You can see it happening on the charts. But we'll talk about that next time, because what we want to talk about right now is gold getting to $3,000 in 2022. There is a way that it could do that, but certain technical things must set up, because these traders and the big banks and the hedge funds and everyone else who follows them, myself included, to some extent, we study the charts. You could say you don't want to study the charts. Fine. Bless you. Have fun. But you'll be in the minority of people here, and you will not succeed over the long run, except in the major theme of precious metals going higher. In that one, you will succeed if you ignore the charts. But you won't succeed in the week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year swings and investments that we all see happening, all these potentials. So, check out gold here over the last 3 days. Gold had been strong, really nice to see above 1,800, right? We're talking about that support above 1,800. Been talking about that for the last 2 or 3 months. It held again. Looks like a little short-term top here, just above 1,850. That's fine. Gold is looking healthy. Here's why. Long-term chart. Boom. Zoom it all the way out. Key. Let's study what actually matters. What can get you out of the system? It's studying what actually matters, which is the charts. Let's remember where we are. Gold hit a peak back in the year 2008, just above $1,000 per ounce. It then declined, 30% decline. It then formed an all-time high resistance zone in this range. You can see this, the multiple attempts to get back above 1,000 all failed before a breakout in 2009. The breakout went 20% higher before failing, but the failure, in fact, constituted a successful retest of the former all-time high resistance zone. These are the patterns that play out in life and in markets again and again, and if you ignore them, you will not succeed over the long run in your investment career, which is important, because if you can diversify enough money out of the system, if you can get some funds out of the system and start investing those funds and crystallize the profits that you make along the way, that is the way that you can beat their attempts to try to suppress you. I'm talking about the governments and the central banks. This is the way that you can beat their attempts to suppress you, is if you actually profit over the long run, but you have to have savings first to do that. I'm sorry to say it. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you got to find a way out of that first. A lot of people don't want to hear this. You have to have savings first and then be able to invest those savings to change the outcome of your life. That's what we're trying to do here. Let's all do it together. Breakout, retest, boom, 2-year bull market, gold triples from the bottom here. Wonderful, right? A lot of people made small and large fortunes in this move here in gold. What is happening now? We had 1, 2, and 3 attempts to break through the 1800 level. It failed. Bear market. Stability. Climb our way back up. Where are we right now? We are in the new or current all-time high resistance zone. Very similar to the former resistance zone that existed just above 1,000, except right now we're talking about the 1,800 level. Can you see that? Boom. Breakout, very similar to 2008. And what? A second successful retest has just been registered. Look at the retest here. This black double band. And where are we right now? A second retest of this support zone, which used to be resistance, has just occurred. Now, the only question, having seen a second successful retest, the only question is gold simply going to shoot higher immediately in another impulsive move higher and get to 3,000? Probably not this year, but if you look at the trajectory here below the resistance zone in blue, 3,000, in 2022? This would be the expectation if we see gold break above a very specific level that we were watching right now. Or is there going to be more grinding here in gold over the next year or two? Which would be very frustrating for a lot of people that want it to go higher immediately. It would actually be the most healthy thing for the market over the long run. And after a bit of grinding for a year or two, we get that advance. The point that we're trying to make is that the 1,800 resistance, former resistance, now support, because once you break out from resistance and have a successful retest, this zone is now supposed to act as support, which it is doing. Once you see that, you have to place the bias with that knowledge, with that information. Look, former resistance, now support. Back here, former resistance, now support, now support. These patterns play out over and over again throughout history for a reason. Actually, for many reasons. Actually, for infinite reasons. Because there are infinite participants in the gold market. Every single human being, whether they decide whether or not to buy or sell gold or not to buy or sell gold, you are a participant in the gold market. So whether or not you like it or not, you are. That's the funny thing, especially when you're talking about a currency market, which gold is the ultimate currency. So which path higher is it going to be? This is really the question. And to answer this question, we're going to zoom into the shaded box here. Let's bring it in and let's look at the trajectory. What I'm trying to say to you is what happens here over the course of the next 10 trading days. The very end of February here. You can see where my mouse is. Right at the apex of this big, large red arrow. What happens here is going to decide whether or not gold blasts higher immediately or needs to consolidate for another 1 or 2 years to get higher eventually. What is the trigger point? So this little move right there, if you look at the chart here going all the way back to 2019, you notice there was a support level here coming in here from May of 2019, coming into the lows of November 2019. There was this false breakdown here in the coronavirus panic. You could see, though, the support was respected once again in March of 2020, right where my mouse is here. You can see the support level was respected again in November of 2020, again here. So right now, what we're living through is something that looks like it has the potential to be another false breakdown. Can you see that? Got this support zone right here. It broke lower, but it's slingboarding higher, which is very good to see. So one of two things can happen here. If we see continuation higher, especially if we start to see some weekly closes above 1,860. So we're only $19 away from that. $1,860 on a weekly close means that this thing was a false breakdown, similar to the coronavirus panic here. And you can see the result. When you get a legitimate false breakdown, the result is a slingboard higher, a slingshot higher. Look at this, back from the coronavirus. False breakdown, slingboard higher in the price of gold. So if this happens again, and we're within 10 days of knowing the answer to this, if this happens again, gold is going to slingboard higher over the next 3 to 6 months above the former all-time high, 2,074, and be well on its way above $3,000, not this year, but if you extrapolate these arrows, this trajectory here, we will get above 3,000 in 2022. Yes, we will. Basically, the point here is if gold can show some weekly closes above 1860, this sets the way for $3,000 next year. If, however, to clarify the chart, gold fails right now, we're talking over the next 10 trading days, this is 2 weeks. If gold fails to close above 1860, it means this trend has been legitimately broken. But remember, there's strong support here just below 1800. And therefore, gold should be expected to grind and grind and grind throughout 2021 and into 2022 before the next chance higher occurs, most likely mid to late 2022. I have stated before in the past that this would actually be the best thing for gold. From a technical basis, it would be the most sustainable thing for gold to see gold just base like this for a couple years. It would be slightly uninspiring, but I have to say the look of a lot of the gold miners is showing me that even if we see this worst case performance here, a lot of the gold mining companies are going to outperform. That's the message that I'm seeing on the charts. So, bring it back to the full course of knowledge here. If we see closes above 1860, it strongly suggests on a weekly closing basis, it strongly suggests that gold is about to make a slingshot higher over the next 3 to 6 months, eclipse that former all-time peak, and then be well on the way to $3,000. There's a trigger point here. I am not saying anything could happen. I'm not saying, some people when they see the technical analysis, they say, oh, you're saying anything could happen. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying gold's going to fall to $300 per ounce. I'm not saying gold's going to $5,000 either. This is if-then statements based on defined trigger points. If gold fails at 1860 to close above that, it strongly argues that there's going to be a period of grinding ahead of us in the gold market, which will be uninspiring to the casual viewer. But I would argue here, and I hope this is the case, that you are not the casual viewer, that you are here to change the course of your life and to stop those that would attempt to do so from robbing you of your power, your savings, your life energy, your vitality. That is what we want to stop. We want to profit from this thing. And in my opinion, the way to do that is to study the price action in the market and to make well-timed buy and sell decisions based on what we are seeing in the markets. And we are doing that. If you want to join us, the premium subscription that I offer is called Precious Metals Intelligence. It includes videos like you are seeing now, except they are much more in-depth. Not only do we talk about big picture things like we're talking about now, it's important to understand the big picture. We get into the intermediate term, and the micro term of the exact investments that we are making here, the exact gold and silver miners that we are making, as well as everything else that is happening in the US dollar, the US stock market, the rest of the commodity complex. Flash updates right to your inbox, all included in this one premium service. This is not cheap. It's not meant to be cheap. This is for investors who can afford it and who have some discretionary capital to use. If you would like to speak to me one-on-one, please know you can reach me in the Consultations tab of the website. I do voice and email consultations with individuals across the spectrum. I do not take any funds or any fees from, for example, the GDX or the GDXJ or any of the miners that we are buying and selling here, or any of the dealerships that I recommend for physical gold or silver. I don't take any fees from them. I work for the benefit of individuals such as yourself, so if you'd like to speak in the future, just know you can reach me at your convenience. So they're coming for you. We know that. We've known that for a long time. This is the time to dig in, right? This is the time to really be secure about yourself, be firm, and profit. Profit from this time so that when this time is over, you can live the life that you want to live. That is the only way to give the proverbial middle finger to those who would attempt to stop you. Let's do that together. I'll see you this time in a week or two.